Well, increased fire danger still hangs with us for the next couple of days, so avoid burning if at all possible. Overnight, a partly cloudy sky. Temperatures will dip back into the upper 30s and low 40s. For our Thursday, we'll see some sunshine to start, but extra clouds start to mix in for the afternoon. High temperatures are just a little bit cooler, with highs in the low 60s. We'll go back down into the mid-40s overnight. Mid and upper 60s back for our Friday with scattered rain. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
If you're a builder and you haven't went to Little Shaver's Wood Shop, you're missing all types of lumber products, hard to find woods and paneling materials that are in stock and ready to help you conquer anything the job throws your way. Locally owned, Little Shaver's Wood Shop has a friendly, knowledgeable staff to get you in, out, and on with your day. Little Shaver's Wood Shop, 3301 Salisbury Highway in Statesville. Little Shaver's Wood Shop, LILshavers.com.
Everyone, hello, welcome back. Happy Friday to you. We're live. Yes, I am in studio. We are live. Producer CJ on the board with me. How we doing over there?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. We got a good one for you here today on the scoreboard. We are live. First time this week that we are doing a live broadcast of the scoreboard, I believe, which is, that's awesome. We're here, we're live, we get to chat. I got a lot on my mind today regarding the world of sports. There's a few stories that I want to talk about, but one of the things that's definitely interesting about the late January, early February sports calendar is it's kind of a transition period where, yes, there is still football to be played. We have a Super Bowl that we still got to play. We have the Pro Bowl coming up as well, which, to be honest, I don't know how many people are going to be watching the Pro Bowl. But we do still have a Super Bowl to be played next week, but it's really dying down. We don't have any football games to talk about for this weekend, nothing to preview. All of the championship games have concluded from last weekend. And now we just wait. We're on a holding period for the NFL where we just sit around and say, what else is on? Well, guess what? That's where I come in. I'll be able to help you figure out your viewing habits for the next couple of days here as we move into a period without football. Yeah, I know. It was hot and heavy there all year. Now we get to the end of the football season. So we're not going to talk all that much NFL today, but what we are going to get into is the high school girls varsity season. We've been covering that for the most part throughout the entirety of the regular season. We're getting close to the end of the regular season. Then we have some conference tournaments to go on. So we don't exactly have that moment where we jump right into the playoffs. But the first round of the playoffs is coming up February 25th. That's the end of February. We're about a month away from that. But coming up February 17th is the beginning of conference tournaments. So there are very important games that are going to be going on leading into the actual rounds of the playoffs. We're just not there yet. Every team has about 4 or 5 games remaining on the regular season schedule before we get into the conference tournaments. We got to seed those, go through those. They're really quick. They happen fast. It begins February 17th. It ends February 21st. So you can see how quick of a turnaround it is between the conference tournament and the first round of the playoffs. We're also going to talk about some things that are in the news today. I was reading this article earlier today. It was released late last night about Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter, Ippei Mitsuhara. He is due to be sentenced on February 6th after his guilty plea in June for stealing money from Shohei Ohtani. But there seems to be a few question marks that are being thrown up about these claims of a gambling addiction by the former interpreter for the world's biggest baseball star. I don't want to believe that Shohei Ohtani is the one that's really to be looked at here, because I like Ohtani and I think he is very important for the game of baseball. But when you look at some of the reporting that's been done on Mitsuhara over the past couple of days, questions will be asked, and I'm going to ask some questions. Not that I have the answers to them, not that you have the answers to them, but just a little, what's going on in this world? Because we talked about it a lot at the beginning of the year last year, at the beginning of the baseball season. Remember, there were spring training games going on when the Dodgers and the Padres started their regular season overseas in South Korea. While that was happening, all of the translator gambling, stolen money stories started coming to light while they were playing over in South Korea. So a little bit of an update for you here on that. Really long article that was written by Trisha Thompson of ESPN and posted late last night. We'll talk about a little bit of the things that are in that article. Also coming up this weekend, because I know you're probably jonesing for something new since we have no football, we have the Clash. Yes, the Clash at, not Daytona, the Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium coming up on Sunday. We have action Saturday as well. And other things going on too at Bowman Gray Stadium. I'm excited for this one. Maybe not for the reasons that you would expect. New season, just ready to see cars on the track. No, I'm ready to see how they drive on this short track, because we've seen it throughout the life of this next-gen car, that the short tracks just aren't where they need to be with this car. It's just not the same kind of racing that we're used to. It's almost like if you want to make a pass, you don't have a choice. You have to move the guy out of the way in front of you. So we'll preview the Clash. I'll get you up to date on who's going to be racing, what car numbers are new, what drivers have moved around from their ride from last year, because there is a lot of shuffling that took place during the off season. And then we'll get into some other storylines from around the world of sports. We had some NBA action last night, obviously some NHL action from last night as well. The Carolina Hurricanes playing last night with their new shiny prized possessions, and they're starting to put it together after that initial loss that they suffered to the Islanders about a week ago now. Still pretty far behind the Capitals in the Metropolitan standings, but when you look at the recent trends of these two teams, it's pretty even, if you ask me. So I think there is still a chance for the Hurricanes to catch up to the Capitals and win the Metropolitan. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to start things off with the girls' varsity basketball season, because like I said, we are running down to the end of the regular season. 5 games, 4 games, somewhere in that area for the remainder of the season for a lot of the schools in the area. And one of the things that I've been talking about as we go over these games is the rough seasons that have been had all around, really, for girls varsity basketball within our area. It has been a rough season, but there are some light points here where we can look at a team and say, hey, they're going to represent the area pretty good come conference tournament and playoff time. So we're going to go ahead, start our discussion here on the other side of the break with the girls varsity basketball season. We have a team in Lake Norman that's just on a tear, just like the men's team. We talked about that yesterday, who's going to be in action tonight as well. We got men's and women's basketball both in action later tonight. Yesterday, if you missed that show, go back and watch it. We talked about what's coming up in the men's scene. We'll go over the women's today. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. Good show for you here today. We'll be back after this.
This guy knows his sports, right? There's more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on the way on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, increased fire danger still hangs with us for the next couple of days, so avoid burning if at all possible. Overnight, a partly cloudy sky, and temperatures will dip back into the upper 30s and low 40s. For our Thursday, we'll see some sunshine to start, but extra clouds start to mix in for the afternoon. High temperatures are just a little bit cooler, with highs in the low 60s. We'll go back down into the mid 40s overnight. Mid and upper 60s back for our Friday with scattered rain by the afternoon. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like Nina's Boutique.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Beer Lab in Mooresville presents Music Bingo on Thursday night, January 30th. 4 rounds begin at 7 p.m. with a chance to win prizes for each round. Don't miss Ghostface Brewing's beer lineup and their menu of pizza, wings, and salads. Beer Lab on Broad Street in Mooresville presents Music Bingo on Thursday. Bin 110 in Cornelius kicks off 3 straight nights of live music on Thursday, January 30th with Peyton Belligan and Christian Stewart. Friday night, Chasing Phoenix performs, and Saturday night, String Theory takes the stage. Make your weekend count with 3 nights of live music Thursday through Saturday at Bin 110 in Cornelius. On Friday night at Micaiah's Bar and Live Music, Rumor Mill performs their first show of 2025. Come listen to the classic rock songs and sounds of the 70s, 80s, and 90s with Rumor Mill at Micaiah's in Mooresville, Friday night at 9:30. The Statesville Chamber of Commerce presents the kickoff event for Surge, a group for young professionals of Iredell County, on Friday night at the Watering Hole on West Broad Street in Statesville. Surge fosters relationships, develops business opportunities, supports civic involvement, and promotes an overall investment in the future of the community. Join Surge for games, food, and networking Friday at 6 p.m. at the Watering Hole in Statesville. Class is in session at Charlotte Motor Speedway with their selection of racing schools. Buck Baker's Seat Time Racing School was founded in 1980 by 2-time NASCAR champion Buck Baker. Graduates include Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Ryan Newman, and thousands of people just like you. Book now at 704-998-1957. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for more details and information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
No radio? No worries.
Just ask Alexa to play WSIC.
It's the Scoreboard with your host, Sports Director Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
And welcome back. Segment 2 here on the Scoreboard. Happy Friday to everyone. Beautiful day out there today. I think it might have rained early this morning. I walked outside and it was wet. I wasn't ready for that. It's like, oh, hey, at least it's not ice, right? Yeah. We are going to go ahead and begin our discussion of the local high school women's varsity basketball season. A reminder to you, we are live today. This episode is not pre-recorded. We are live. We are here in the studio. If you want to reach out, talk sports with me, anything on your mind, 844-STUDIO-4. That's 844-788-3464. Starting things off today with Statesville High School. Most recently, they played on Tuesday. We talked about that one a little bit, where they took on East Lincoln High School. That was on the road, by the way. East Lincoln having a really good year at 15-4. They took care of business against Statesville High School, getting the win 59-41. Now, within the conference, Statesville is really struggling. That 6-12 overall record isn't the best, but within the conference, to be sitting 1-8, that is really not where you want to be. Only West Iredell is currently behind them. They have not won a conference game yet, which obviously that can change. Statesville does play West Iredell one more time this year. But at 6-12, they're going to have to pull for a miracle here during the conference tournaments that'll be coming up. We just talked about when those are going to be. If they have any chance of getting a playoff bid. Now, Statesville is in action later on tonight. They're going to be at home against Ford High School. Tip-off for that game is going to be 6 p.m., right before the men's game is scheduled to start. So a reminder to you, Statesville men's team is also in action playing Ford High School. 7:30 is when that one's going to tip off. Really a back-to-back game there of once the women's game ends, that's when the men's game is going to begin. Next up, we have West Iredell, who we just talked about. They have not won a conference game yet. It's been a real struggle. Only win on the season has come against West Wilkes High School. It's really been a rough start to the year. Rough year all around. I can't even say start anymore. There's only 5 games remaining on the season. With only one win, they're really just looking for a feel-good win to end the year. They have East Lincoln, Statesville, Hickory, North Lincoln, and North Iredell remaining on the schedule. 3 of those games are going to be at home, including the one later on tonight where they're home against East Lincoln. And I'll tell you what, I would be shocked if West Iredell pulls off a win tonight against East Lincoln. They have already played them this year. That was way back at the beginning of January. The final score of that game was 64-12. So if West Iredell is able to get a win in this game, that is a huge turnaround from the first matchup that they had back on the 7th of January. But it is a home game for West Iredell, so maybe a little bit of a different feel. Hopefully they can make it competitive, maybe steal a win. You never know. You really don't. Now for East Lincoln, we want to keep an eye on them. They are 8-1 within the conference. They're only 1 game behind North Lincoln, who has not lost yet in the conference. They haven't, they're 17-1 overall is North Lincoln. They're having an incredible year. But for East Lincoln, they need to continue to win to keep up with North Lincoln, and they got to do that tonight against West Iredell. Now we'll talk about a team, another team that's had a rough year. That would be South Iredell, coming off of a loss to Cox Mill earlier in the week. Now, they did have a moment there, even though the record is below 500, they're 6-13 right now. There was a moment during the year over the past few weeks where they started to put a few games together. You know, back-to-back wins against Mooresville and A.L. Brown. You get a win against West Cabarrus, but then a couple of losses sprinkled in there as well. One of them against Lake Norman, who we've talked about quite extensively on the show so far. They are going to be the team to beat, in my opinion, when it comes to playoff time. We'll talk about Lake Norman here in a few minutes. But for South Iredell, at 6-13, the season's not completely over because their conference record isn't horrible. They're actually 3-4 within the conference right now. Now, they are a game and a half behind Cox Mill High School, who's 5-3, which there is still a little bit of room for them to move up in the conference standings, but we're going to be seeing them play in the conference tournament games. Maybe they can get a good run in there. I mean, this isn't a terrible team. They've had their ups and downs with a few more downs than ups so far this year. But like I said, they have turned it around in the past few weeks here, where the losses have been more competitive. The wins have been better. I mean, they barely lost to Mooresville only a few weeks ago. Now against Hickory Ridge tonight at 6 p.m., that is going to be a real challenge for South Iredell because Hickory Ridge is one of the better teams in the 4A Greater Metro Conference this year. They are 7-1 to start off their conference play, and they still have 5 conference games remaining. But a 7-1 record is really good within that conference. So a game against Hickory Ridge for South Iredell, they got to get this one. If they can win this game, they can ride that momentum into the final 4 games of the season, which are going to be split between home and away. The first 2 next week are going to be home, and then the week after, both of those games will be on the road. And they do play all of the teams that are ahead of them still. Hickory Ridge, Lake Norman, Cox Mill. So still a little bit of room for South Iredell to get a good end to the season and position themselves nicely as we head into conference tournament play. One more school that's had a rough year, that would be Mooresville. They're actually in the middle of a 3-game losing streak. It hasn't been the most competitive 3 games. A big loss to Lake Norman to start it off. They lost that one 90-29. Then a 53-43 loss to Cox Mill, and a most recently 62-46 loss against Hickory Ridge. Now, Mooresville is the only team right now within the area that is not going to be playing tonight. They only have 4 games remaining on the schedule already, where most other teams have 5. So next week, they're going to play 2 games. The week after, they're going to play 2 more games, and it's going to be away, home, away, home. Mooresville at 2-6 in conference and 6-12 overall. Really, like I said, just looking for a couple of feel-good wins to end the year. And we'll see what happens come the conference seeding for the conference tournament. Maybe a miracle run. Miracle runs are not out of the question. They're not. If you win that conference tournament, you're going to go to the playoffs. We've seen it happen before. I believe last year, I forget the school, they were 5th in their conference and won the conference tournament and ended up going to the playoffs. That's all you need, right? That's all you need is a good little run here in a couple of weeks. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the better teams in the area, some of the feel-good stories. One of them, and I think it's the biggest, not feel-good story, but just one of the nicer teams to look at this year is North Iredell. Now, we talked about them a little bit during the men's season, which is still going on, by the way. The men's basketball season is not over. 7-12 currently is the men's team, but they're on a nice 3-game winning streak. The women's team is also on a 3-game winning streak, 3 conference wins in a row, bringing their overall record to 13-6. And within that 3A Western Foothills Conference, they are 6-3. Now, there's another team 6-3 in the conference. That would be Ford High School. And then ahead of them, like we said, North Lincoln undefeated, East Lincoln 8-1. I don't think there's enough time for North Iredell to catch North Lincoln and East Lincoln, even though they do play both of those teams one more time. One of them actually in action tonight. But it's more of like, let's not end the season on a down note. Go into the conference tournament with a win or 2, and you end the season against West Iredell, which honestly, and I don't want to discredit what West Iredell is trying to do over there, but West Iredell's had a really rough year. That is going to be a good game for North Iredell to finish on because they can get a win in that one and go into conference play with a feel-good win on their shoulders. And then, like I said, you never know. Now, I expect to see North Iredell in the playoffs, but we still have 5 games remaining for them, including their game tonight on the road against North Lincoln. That game tips off at 6 p.m. And last but not least, the class of the field. The Lake Norman girls varsity basketball team is 16-1. They are on an 8-game winning streak. Like we talked about last time we talked about the women's team, they are just on a tear. They played A.L. Brown earlier this week, and probably the most lopsided game that we've covered so far this year. Final score was 59-7 in this one. Lake Norman is a powerhouse once again. They are undefeated in the conference. They're on an 8-game winning streak. And later on tonight, they go on the road to play West Cabarrus. That game tipping off at 6 p.m. That's going to be it for the high school talk today. When we return from the commercial break, we'll get into a few things that are in the news. I want to make sure that we talk about the clash at Bowman Gray Stadium coming up, as well as this news story that was released raising some questions about Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter, Ippei Mitsuhara. We'll have the story for you when we return. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this.
Keep it right here. We'll have more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg in just a moment from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, increased fire danger still hangs with us for the next couple of days, so avoid burning if at all possible. Overnight, a partly cloudy sky. Temperatures will dip back into the upper 30s and low 40s. For our Thursday, we'll see some sunshine to start, but extra clouds start to mix in for the afternoon. High temperatures are just a little bit cooler, with highs in the low 60s. We'll go back down into the mid 40s overnight. Mid and upper 60s back for our Friday with scattered rain by the afternoon. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Year-end specials, Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville. How about this for a bargain? 2024 Chevrolet Equinoxes. These are the LT models as low as $22,770. We have got over 25 of these vehicles in stock. You pick the color, drive it home today. That is a Randy Marion Chevrolet Statesville special. Again, $22,770. $22,770. Only a couple thousand miles on these vehicles. Come see them today. Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting great candidates? It seems impossible to find them. Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go. ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do...
Let's play something, Grandma.
...became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Hey, listen to me. I'm one of the credit cards in your wallet. I'm about to explode and pop like a balloon. You're using me and my brothers way too much. Your credit cards aren't the only ones annoyed. It's your paycheck that doesn't have enough to pay everything. Save your credit cards, your paycheck, and yourself a lot of PAIN. Pain. Call the debt helpline now, not tomorrow, right now. Our experts will show you how you can cut your interest rates and your payments on your credit cards in half. Credit card companies have special assistance programs designed to help you. Make this 100% free call right now and learn how you could get out of credit card debt. Here's the number.
800-406-6569. 800-406-6569. 800-406-6569. That's 800-406-6569. Paid for by Zero Debt.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now at 800-810-2191. 800-810-2191. 800-810-2191. That's 800-810-2191.
The best talk all day long.
WSIC.
Local starts here.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. We're watching the airline industry and American Airlines. CEO Robert Isom expressed his deep sorrow in the wake of last night's catastrophic midair collision of a regional jet with a military helicopter near Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C. The American Eagle jet was operated by PSA, a wholly owned subsidiary of American. Reagan Airport is closed until 11 o'clock this morning, Washington time. Investors are watching earnings as well today. UPS shares were lower ahead of the opening bell. The company tempered expectations for a long-awaited rebound this year when it comes to demand for its shipping services. But Meta Platform shares were higher. CEO Mark Zuckerberg predicted what he called a really big year in artificial intelligence. And futures were mixed this morning after stocks moved lower yesterday. Declines ranged from almost 1/3% to around 1/2%. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
It ain't easy being number one, but we make it look good.
WSIC.
Talk sports with Joe Berg. Call 844-STUDIO-4. It's the Scoreboard on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Halfway through the Scoreboard here today on the special 11 o'clock edition on this Friday. Yes, I am live. Yes, I am in studio. You're not going to believe it. I'm getting a phone call from Pat Shannon right now. The Pat Shannon is calling my cell phone. Pat, if you're listening, I'm on air. I'll call you back. I promise. I promise I will. Anyway, we just got done talking about the high school sports scene, girls basketball going on. I would be remiss if I didn't at least inform you guys about the first and second round for dual team wrestling that is going to be going on. That's going to be starting February 1st. Third round and the regional finals will take place on February 5th. State championship games will be held February 8th. Now, this is the dual team wrestling brackets. So we'll give you updates on those as they come in next week, which a lot of games are going to be played. And then Saturday, we'll have the state championship matches. It's going to be in Greensboro at the Coliseum Complex, in case you're curious. Moving on from the high school talk, though, I do want to get into NASCAR a little bit and some of the things that's going on with the Clash. First of all, and honestly, most importantly, we need to let you know what the driver changes are going to be, because there have been quite a few changes. Let's start with teams that shut down. Stewart Haas Racing is no more. They are now the Haas Factory Team. It's going to be a one-car team driven by Cole Custer, who is returning. He was in the 00 car in the Cup Series for a year. He got that win. I believe it was Kansas, maybe Kentucky, one of those 1.5-mile tracks where he made the 4-wide pass on the outside. I can see the pass. Truex, Harvick, Blaney, and then all of a sudden, here comes Cole Custer around the outside to steal a win away. So he will be racing under the Stewart Haas charter that they didn't sell, but it's going to be called Haas Factory Team. It's no longer Stewart Haas Racing. You also have Riley Herbst, who will be driving the number 35 car for 2311 Racing. And you also have Ryan Preece driving the number 60 for RFK Racing using a charter that they got from Rick Ware. Front row also expands to 3 teams. Noah Gregson driving the third car there. So a few driver changes. Cody Ware will be full-time in the number 51 car. Zane Smith will drive the number 38 car for Front Row Motorsports. Like I mentioned, 2311 expanding to 3 teams. Riley Herbst will be the driver of the number 35. Todd Gilliland is going to stay with Front Row Racing, Front Row Motorsports, but he is going to move to the number 34 car. Remember that 34 car last year and for a lot of years prior, driven by Michael McDowell. He's got a few wins in that thing. He won at the Indy Road Course, a Daytona 500 champion. Now Todd Gilliland steps into the 34. Ty Dillon will be back in the Cup Series, driving for Colleague Racing in the number 10. The number 31 is also I'm sorry, the number 31 car that they had is becoming the number 10 car now, being renumbered. Justin Haley will drive for Spire Motorsports in the number 7 car. Shane Van Gisbergen making his not Cup debut, but his first full-time season in the Cup Series. He'll be driving for Trackhouse Racing. And guess what? The number 88 has made a return to the NASCAR Cup Series, last driven, as we know, by Dale Jr. Corey LaJoie is not going to be back in the car for Spire Motorsports this year. Noah Gragson, as I just mentioned, he moves to Front Row Motorsports. It was announced that he will drive the number 4 car. Drew Blickensderfer will be the crew chief for that car. And now we have a little bit more driver swaps and replacements. Josh Berry is replacing Harrison Burton in the Wood Brothers Racing number 21 car. Harrison Burton no longer in the Cup Series. Chase Briscoe will now drive for Joe Gibbs Racing in the number 19 car because Martin Truex Jr. has retired from full-time competition. Now, he will run some races, including trying to qualify for the Daytona 500. He'll do that with 2311 Racing. And last but not least, we just talked about him, Michael McDowell moving from Front Row Motorsports to Spire Motorsports. He'll drive the number 71 car. That's going to be an interesting one. Spire Motorsports been on the up and up over the last few years, in my opinion. Definitely a team to watch. Now getting Michael McDowell to drive a race car for them, I like McDowell. I'm a fan of him. I don't think he's bad. Obviously, you can't be bad if you've won a Daytona 500 and you've won at the road course at Indianapolis. Those are a couple of big wins there. But just letting you guys know, those are the changes to expect because we do have cars on track on Saturday. Now, it's not on the NASCAR official schedule for this weekend that we are going to have a race on Saturday, but we have qualifying and 4 heat races on Saturday. You'll be able to listen to those or watch those on Fox Sports 1. Now, the reason we went over all those driver changes is because when you tune in on Saturday, there will be different drivers, there will be different sponsors, there will be different teams. There's going to be a lot of changes. So I just wanted to make sure I have you guys prepared for the changes that are coming when we see cars on track tomorrow. After we have Saturday's slate of races on Sunday, it'll be the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. 8 p.m. is the start time for that one. You can catch all the action right here at WSIC. Yes, coverage beginning on Sunday at 7 p.m. Listen in to the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. The feature is going to be a 200-lap event. On Sunday, there will be a last chance qualifying race to see who's going to make the main field for this clash. Now, I'm excited. I want to see how the car drives at the short track. I haven't heard of very many technical changes to the car. Maybe, like I said before, maybe I just missed it and I didn't see it. But as far as I know, there are no changes to the car and to the way it drives this year. Now, we know that they made a few adjustments to the super speedway car last year in an attempt to stop it from flipping over. And then we go to Daytona and we had 2 cars get airborne. But I don't think there are any changes to the short track car, which is going to be interesting because it's not the best car for a short track. But we'll see. It's a really small track, Bowman Gray Stadium. 200 laps, only 50 miles. Yeah. I'll have my first impression of the 2025 season on Monday when we return here on the Scoreboard. I'm excited. It gives us something to watch this weekend. You know, I would like to watch NBA action, but I just can't bring myself to watch the Hornets, man. I just can't do it. I'll tune in. Every now and then I'll tune in. I'll keep up with what's going on. I just talked about it yesterday with Ball going on the injured list with a sprained ankle. Brandon Miller having the surgery. He's out for the season. So we got NASCAR this weekend. We'll cover it, recap it on Monday, and I'll let you know my first impressions of the 2025 season. One more segment to go on this Friday. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this.
it right here. We'll have more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg in just a moment from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, increased fire danger still hangs with us for the next couple of days, so avoid burning if at all possible. Overnight, a partly cloudy sky. Temperatures will dip back into the upper 30s and low 40s. For our Thursday, we'll see some sunshine to start, but extra clouds start to mix in for the afternoon. High temperatures are just a little bit cooler, with highs in the low 60s. We'll go back down into the mid-40s overnight. Mid and upper 60s back for our Friday with scattered rain by the afternoon. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Beer Lab in Mooresville presents Music Bingo on Thursday night, January 30th. 4 rounds begin at 7 p.m. with a chance to win prizes for each round. Don't miss Ghostface Brewing's beer lineup and their menu of pizza, wings, and salads. Beer Lab on Broad Street in Mooresville presents Music Bingo on Thursday. Bin 110 in Cornelius kicks off 3 straight nights of live music on Thursday, January 30th with Peyton Belligan and Christian Stewart. Friday night, Chasing Phoenix performs, and Saturday night, String Theory takes the stage. Make your weekend count with 3 nights of live music Thursday through Saturday at Bin 110 in Cornelius. On Friday night at Micaiah's Bar and Live Music, Rumor Mill performs their first show of 2025. Come listen to the classic rock songs and sounds of the 70s, 80s, and 90s with Rumor Mill at Micaiah's in Mooresville, Friday night at 9:30. The Statesville Chamber of Commerce presents the kickoff event for Surge, a group for young professionals of Iredell County, on Friday night at the Watering Hole on West Broad Street in Statesville. Surge fosters relationships, develops business opportunities, supports civic involvement, and promotes an overall investment in the future of the community. Join Surge for games, food, and networking Friday at 6 p.m. at the Watering Hole in Statesville. Class is in session at Charlotte Motor Speedway with their selection of racing schools. Buck Baker's Seat Time Racing School was founded in 1980 by 2-time NASCAR champion Buck Baker. Graduates include Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, Ryan Newman, and thousands of people just like you. Book now at 704-998-1957. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for more details and information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
New lunch specials now available at Mooresville's best Italian spot, Pomodoro's. Open Tuesday through Sunday and ready to serve you the best Italian this side of the motherland. View the mouth-watering menu at pomodoros.com.
Crosswhite Law in Statesville cares. Here to serve you and your family's needs in elder law, estate planning, and estate administration. Call Crosswhite Law today, 704-873-7233.
The Scoreboard with Joe Berg continues now on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
All right, everyone, welcome back. It is the final segment here on a Friday. Yeah, happy Friday to you. Are you excited for the weekend? Yeah, I am. Even though we have no football. I know. There is football. There's the Pro Bowl. But
not real football.
Not even close. They don't even put pads on anymore, CJ. They don't.
Like two-hand touch.
Flag football. It is flag football. I don't know if there's a way to save the Pro Bowl at this point. Maybe some penalties need to be incurred if players decide to skip out. Maybe. The NHL's done that. And now they have participation in the All-Star game, so we'll see. A couple of things that I want to go over here in this final segment. We're not going to talk any NFL. We may get into the NBA and the NHL a little bit, but there was a story last night, and I previewed this a little bit at the beginning of the show, that federal prosecutors are disputing claims made by Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter, Ippei Mitsuhara, that he stole from the slugger to pay back a massive gambling debt, saying there is no evidence that he suffered from a gambling addiction before he started draining the Dodgers star bank account. This is an interesting one. So the report is that that the government's investigation found only minimal evidence of past legal gambling by Mitsuhara. They looked at more than 30 casinos across the country, and the only evidence found was the defendant spending $200 at the Mirage Casino during a weekend in 2008. Now, he did register for a FanDuel account back in 2018, but he never placed a bet on the website. He began betting with DraftKings in 2023 after he had already stolen millions of dollars from Shohei Ohtani. Prosecutors say that Mitsuhara did not accumulate a tremendous debt that forced him to steal from Ohtani, as was claimed. At the time of the first fraudulent wire transfer, a modest, quote, modest $40,000 was sent to Mitsuhara, who already had more than $34,000 in his checking account. The claim is that Mitsuhara could have used his own money to pay a bookie, but instead chose to steal from Ohtani and had no intention of repaying him. So I guess the new claim is not that it was legal gambling that Mitsuhara was in, but illegal gambling with a bookie, with somebody keeping books and keeping his money and taking his money. I hope that's the truth, and that somehow this isn't all a cover-up for what the initial fear was when this story first started. The initial fear was that it's actually Shohei Ohtani that's doing the gambling. And they were sending the money to Mitsuhara so that it looked like he was the one paying off gambling debt. I don't think that's the case right now. I still believe that it was Mitsuhara just acting on his own, stealing money from Ohtani. But there is the question of why doesn't the story really match up from what we're being told? Now, the sentencing is going to be taking place on February 6th. They asked for an 18-month sentence, but the prosecutors are looking for nearly 5 years. I'm curious to see where it goes from here. I don't think we're going to have much more news breaking unless it's found out that this actually is a cover-up of some kind. And like I said, I don't believe it is. I really hope it's not. I don't want to see another situation where one of the greatest players of all time is barred from baseball for gambling. But it's a question. And it's going to continue to be a question in the world of sports, because every time you turn on the TV, every other advertisement when you're watching sports is gambling. FanDuel, DraftKings, the daily fantasy sites, hey, pick who's going to have more receiving yard sites. You're seeing it more and more. It's more and more accessible for players as well as the people, which is what, it was for. It's for the people, not for the players. But it's so easy to access it. And we've already seen it in the NFL, rear its ugly head. We've had multiple players suspended indefinitely, suspended for a year, suspended for a few months for gambling. Maybe not necessarily gambling on the NFL, maybe not even the games that they're playing in, but gambling at the team facility. You can't do that. We're going to continue to hear about problems with gambling. It's not going anywhere. Gambling's here to stay right now. It's a big industry. Billions of dollars in the gambling industry. You're not getting rid of it. Now that you've gone down this road, you've opened Pandora's box. It's here to stay. I just hope that these leagues start informing these players on what they can and cannot do. Maybe a class. Rookies come in, take this class about gambling, about how easy it is, but what you cannot do. You can't bet on the sport that you play in, no matter what, no matter where you are. You play in the sport, you have the inside information, you're in the practices, you can't do it. We'll see what happens with this sentencing with Ippei Mitsuhara and what happens with Shohei Ohtani moving forward. Now, if there's another gambling controversy centered around Shohei Ohtani, there's going to be a lot of red flags that are raised. But if this is the only time that Shohei Ohtani's name is mentioned with gambling, I feel like it's more likely that it was his interpreter that was stealing money from him, paying off illegal gambling debt. But that's all we can hope right now. Before we get to the end of the program, a little bit of an update for you on the NHL season. Carolina Hurricanes having a good year as they have in the past. Now, I've mentioned it already. They weren't having the crazy year that they had over the past 4 years, being the best team in the NHL, second best, third best. But they're starting to put some wins together here and really make a dent in the top of the National Hockey League standings. My biggest concern right now, and I don't want to get into the goaltending situation. If you guys have been listening to the show, you know my biggest fear with this team is that the goaltending is not going to be enough to progress them through the playoffs. They have the goal scoring. They have the defense. Do they have the goaltending? I don't believe so. That's just my thought, though. The bigger concern right now for me with Carolina is the way that they're playing their game. Carolina has 32 wins, they have 16 losses, and they have 4 overtime losses. When they play in Raleigh, the Carolina Hurricanes are 25-1. When they play away from Raleigh, when they are on the road, the Hurricanes' record is only 12-11-3, hovering around 500. That is concerning. That is very concerning because in the playoffs, you're going on the road. You're going to have to win some road games. Now, it's not a big concern right now because within the division, they are second. They have now passed the New Jersey Devils, who are faltering here as of late. Staying ahead of the Devils is going to be imperative because if you get the 2 seed in your conference or in your division, in the Metropolitan Division, which Carolina is in, you get a home game to start. You have home ice advantage in that first round. Now, if they end up going to play Washington at some point, then they'll be on the road, and then we'll have some concerns because we've seen Carolina on the road in the playoffs stink. We've seen it for years now. They stunk at the Garden. They stunk in Boston. They stunk in Florida on the road. I mean, CJ, what's the problem here? Why are we so bad on the road in the playoffs?
It all goes back to the goaltending. There's no goaltending in the playoffs, and then that's their defense also lacks in the playoffs, and they just don't play their game in the playoffs. Like they're under a certain type of pressure.
I don't know what it is about this team, but for some reason they do struggle in the playoffs on the road. And now we're seeing it in the regular season, which we hadn't seen all that much going into this year. They really had good splits between home and away. That's something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on in the remainder of the regular season for Carolina. Thanks, everyone, for tuning into the Scoreboard today. It was a lot of fun talking to you guys this week. NASCAR is back. The Bowman Gray Stadium Clash coming up on Sunday. Heat races on Saturday. Your last chance qualifier on Sunday. Basketball's going on. Watch the Hornets if you can stomach it. We'll talk about it on Monday. I'll see you guys there. Until then, see ya.
Serving you better than ever before.